Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
We're hitting a three-peat today. I'm very excited to have Blakk back on now. Had Forrest on January last year and the year before, and we worked out that, it seems to be every 12 months, so why not just continue doing this and explore how both of our lives are going, right in the highs and lows as we go. And for those who listened to his episode this time last year, he'd just gone through a breakup. He was just releasing a song, which since then has gone on to hit top 20 in the United States charts, which is huge. He now has 3.7 million monthly streamers on Spotify alone. That's just one platform. So his life has had some dramatically positive changes, which is brilliant. But during this conversation, we talk about obviously achieving worldwide success, the expectation versus the reality, and have a bit of a chat around that, because obviously a lot of us blokes here in this career-driven space are really striving to achieve success and in our own fields and in our own rights. But the discussion around expectation versus reality was a very, very interesting one. We also chatted about seeking discomfort, how Forrest had or still has an inherent family longing, plus the Christmas calls that he does. Even though he's still mega famous now and there's so many people wanting his time, he still takes the time to give back to his fans and jump on the call. So it's a very exciting episode. Gents, you're probably well aware I don't do sponsored ads on this podcast, and the way I'm able to continue investing time in this and getting incredible guests on is through my own company, through the own business of the Man That Can Project. So I appreciate everyone who supports the project by sharing information, sharing podcasts to really help the brand build recognition and credibility. You're all incredible for doing that. But also, obviously, I plug my own programs and workshops because I truly believe in them. And while the Strong Man of Value is closed until closer to April, I want to talk to you quickly and remind you guys about the online breakthrough experience. In this, I'm going to coach you at your self-paced time so you can go through it whenever you feel like, but I'm going to coach you to eliminate self-doubt and limiting beliefs and any negative thoughts that you have. I'm going to teach you how to communicate with yourself better and with others with absolute ease. I'm going to help you start taking action towards your goals and learn how to live with purpose. It is an incredible program, and obviously I plug it because I created it, and it is what I use to transform my life. And we've had so many blokes go through it and transform their lives as well. So definitely head over to themanthatcanproject.com/breakthrough experience to check that one out and see if it's a good fit for you. If it is, you can get started today, and over the next 6 weeks, your life will change for the better. I promise you that. That's enough from me. Let's dive into today's episode with Forrest
Welcome
Blakk.
to the Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering men to take ownership for their lives through higher performance. I'm your host, Stuart, and join me for weekly conversations around fitness, mental health, spirituality, relationships, finances, communication, and more. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and please leave a 5-star rating and review. Doing this helps the show to grow and get in the hands of men who really need it. Let's get into today's show.
This is so crazy. We're in it.
Man, well, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you as well. This is the international connection all the way from Australia straight to Los Angeles.
And from Los Angeles all the way back to Australia. I can tell you right now, Sunday morning, the 9th of January is going to be a fantastic morning. It starts off sunny.
Thank
and
you.
then the rain comes back. We've had rain for
not
a
here in
whole
Los
week.
Angeles. Not going to happen. You get like 4 days of rain a year, and that's like great.
That's normally Brisbane. We have the occasional summer afternoon storm, but I put a post up yesterday. I feel like Brisbane's just continuing to rain because Omicron is just dropping people like flies.
Is it bad down there right now?
Oh yeah, we've all had it. Like Linda tested positive, Amy tested positive. I'm just going to assume I had it because, well, I was sick before them. So
you're going to assume you gave it to everybody.
Well, it was at our New Year's Eve party and everyone tested positive, and I just didn't want to get a test because I was like, well, may as well just isolate instead of going to line up for 7 hours when I know that everyone else is positive. So,
wow.
See, yeah. But anyway, that's why Brisbane's raining, because it's like, well, let's just make everyone enjoy some downtime rather than having these beautiful sunny days and you have to be stuck inside.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the rainy days. They're a lot of fun.
Don't get me wrong.
It definitely, I mean, Los Angeles, I think they get 22 days of rain a year, which is like, that's their average, which like we didn't have that last year. We had like 5.
Yeah, right.
It's depressing. People don't realize that. Everyone's like, balance is the least depressing thing.
I couldn't agree more.
The imbalance just kills you, man.
I definitely I love rainy days because I do feel comfortable switching off. I can read a book, I can hang out with Amy or whatever it is. But if there's like 5 or plus strung together, then I become miserable.
Yeah, but it starts to become imbalanced again.
Touche.
I think that's what it is. Because like I miss it, you know what I mean? I genuinely miss it. Like, and you don't think you would, you know? You're right. Like when it's raining all the time, you're like, man, a little sunshine would do me well. And I think you're right. And I think that right to the opposite side of that is the opposite side of that, and it feels exactly the same. And it's like, damn, what I wouldn't give for just some rain. It feels like when the rain comes in, it's a clean slate.
It's funny, though, how we love that kind of change, but then change in many other areas of our life we freak out about.
Yeah, most change is uncomfortable.
Except for a rainy day.
A rainy day it's like this outer change. And rain doesn't really change your life. You know, like if you think about it, rain has these cool moments. Like, it can change your life. Yeah, of course. But you know, if you're thinking of like a footy match or a football match here or something like that, there's something about those when the rain is coming down hard and you see those people playing, you're like, man, that's inspiring. But never have I been there, been like, man, it's a perfect temperature and it's so sunny outside and damn, am I inspired? Like, I've never felt that.
Yeah, very true. Have you ever thought about this? I was thinking about this when I was walking in the rain a couple of weeks ago for our Christmas party and everyone was like, let's get undercover. I'm like, why? What we're doing right now, there's 10 of us blokes. So it was all the blokes from Functional, and we're having beers on the roof of this place. And I was like, what are you worried about? At what point did it become an inconvenience to just sit in the rain and do exactly what we're doing anyway? We don't have anywhere to be. It doesn't matter if we're wet or not. Why don't we just, for once in our life, just enjoy a beer in the rain?
Yeah.
And everyone was like, yeah, fair. So then we just sat out and drank some beers in the rain. It was beautiful.
I feel like you're just pointing out the fact that like at some point we've lost this like childhood, like, or childlike curiosity. You know, because the kid in you, for most kids, they're like, it's raining, I'm going to go jump in puddles and get myself full of mud and piss off my parents because I'm covered in dirt. But those end up being like the greatest memories that you have. So you're totally right. But I think at some point you transition, like you forget that childlike wonder. And then you start always calculating the next move, you know, like I'm going to have somewhere to be, or if you're covered in rain, you can't do this, or if you're totally wet, where have you? And you're right. But sometimes that's the moment. Like I guess the question comes to mind that comes to mind rather would be if you're sitting next to someone at the end of their life and they're on their deathbed and they still got some breath in their lungs and they're going to go and they're going to pull you in. And they're like, little Forrest, come here. Don't ever dance in the rain. Like, no one's gonna ever say that. Like, if you're like, if you're coming to the end of it, they're gonna be like, work less, do shit that you love, be happy, because you're gonna find out that at every point when you hit those successes, you're not gonna be fulfilled at all. You will for a minute, and then like a day or two later, or a month, maybe if you're lucky, you go straight back to the new level. So like those kids don't want to play in the rain. You're going to be dry anyway. That's
Go play
next.
in the rain. Go play in the
Play in
rain.
the
For
rain.
everyone listening at home, go play in the rain.
Go play.
It's funny when before I hit record, Forrest was like, "Oh, this is our third podcast together," and it literally has been one every year. Or there was a year break between the first one, but even now thinking about it and just that conversation we had then, I remember in our last podcast saying to you that one of the things that I really wanted to work on over the next 12 months was being more present and actually enjoying the moments. And because I was so career driven and I guess money focused, everything else didn't get the attention or didn't get the thought that it needed to really enjoy the moments. And I feel just from what that conversation we had there this last 12 months, I've nailed that. Like my business is still growing, my podcast is still growing, but I've actually not felt like I've had this huge weight on my shoulder to continue to build a business. Like it's just a lot of it's habit and processes and the right people, but I've also, I think, grown it because I have been more present in moments and enjoyed experiences a whole heap more. So that was a cool, just as you were talking about that then, I was like, fuck, I do remember us talking about this last time and I've actually done that.
I love that. I think that's like, they're not necessarily New Year's resolutions. They're just kind of like, these are things I want to better and, fix that imbalance, and you're doing it. Like, I mean, dude, you got married this year. That's crazy. Like, I love you, bro, but I was like, I don't know if he's going to ever ask.
Mate,
I was like,
the amount of people. Well, I think since around year 3, which probably was when I met you in Germany, since around then, every holiday we go on, everyone's like, you're popping the question, aren't you? I'm like, no, seriously, I'm not. They're like, come on, you can tell me. I'm like, no. But if I was, I wouldn't tell you anyway.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point, when people stop asking, that's probably the right time to ask because it's going to shock everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's about shocking one person only. But, whatever you need to do to fill those shoes.
Yeah. It's a shame that you couldn't make it over. Obviously, we had yourself and a few other internationals that could make it over. But, I'm sure when we can, we will celebrate. But you've 1,000%. Had an epic year.
Yeah. I mean, I think to the same thing as you, like the last time we spoke, like, I can't remember the exact date, but I wasn't the success hadn't rolled in just yet.
Yeah, I'm getting it up here.
It was just starting, I think.
It hadn't actually started, no. It was just before. But can fill us in on what a whirlwind, I think it might have been about 14 months. I'm just going to get it up here, but you've obviously, it's been awesome for me to watch because I remember when Amy and you allowed us to stay at your place in Germany. Yeah. And it was, you and I had an awesome day where I think the girls were getting massages or shopping or whatever they were doing. You and I were just walking the streets, talking, and we were having a coffee. And I was learning a heap more about your story. And I still remember, obviously you're in the band Makeshift Innocence, and that had huge success.
I never talk about it, but thanks.
Yeah. Sorry, I just plugged it for. You've got some cracking songs there, but I remember, like just who you are as a person. For me, you're someone I aspire to be like, just because you genuinely give a shit about people. And I wanted to actually ask you about, because you get. Once again, outside looking in, like you've had huge levels of success, and this is not just with music, but in various other things. But the last 12 months really have blown up for you. And this year you still did your Christmas calls and messages to all your fans when it would have been so easy to just not do that because you're in a completely different place to 12 months ago, but you still made the time to do that. And I was watching online. Part of me wanted to drop my number in so you could call me, but I was like, look, I'll allow you to call other people.
Should have.
You can call me in the new year. But like, how did this first become a thing? Like, and then we'll go back to the success over the 12 months. But Christmas calls.
Oh man, so I went homeless as a teenager, and I went homeless in and around Christmas Eve, and it was really weird because, you know, like you see all these things as you get older about like homelessness and how like, you know, everyone has to come together and love on the homeless and here's these charities and do this and do that. But I was the product of that world as a kid, and I didn't see any of that. I saw the opposite of it, man. I remember I was in this town called Cornwall, Ontario. It's like this small little town, like, you know, kind of just along the highway. It's one of those border towns in Canada. And I remember being in this like rougher neighborhood in the town and walking by myself, and I was like, man, I'm really unhappy. Like I felt really alone. It was more than unhappiness. It was loneliness. Like, and it was so in your face because at Christmas time, what people don't think about is like how much, and to no fault of anybody's, but just how much ads are centered around like coming together. Like, you know, every like ad on TV or on the internet or on whatever social media platform is like your big family dinner, or it's the opening of the gifts. It's getting a puppy. It's like, and the list goes on. Everybody knows it. You've seen it over and over again. And when you're a teenager and this happens, there's no Santa Claus to come down a chimney. There's no chimney, you know, or there's no parents showing up in the morning and you come down in your PJs and you get that Christmas gift you've always wanted. There's nothing. And you notice that because the whole world is like saying, hey, this is what happens at this time. And it wasn't what happened at my time. So the reason why I'm saying all that is because I became, I guess, a bit of a Grinch over the years. I became cynical, man. I was like, I just shied away from Christmas. It's not that I hated Christmas. I just started to hate more and more what Christmas stood for. And I was getting mad about it. And that cynicism was bleeding into me and it started building resent. And I was like, this is bullshit. Like, why do Christmas and fake gifts and all this stuff? And you don't care about each other anyway. And I had like a hard left turn at one point where I was like, man, maybe I'm my own worst enemy right now, because that was a moment in time. And I've had opportunities to be happy around people, but I've never let or forgiven that moment. And so there was a shift in me and I was like, okay. And at the time I was dating somebody and they had massive family traditions for Christmas, and I had to like work myself into getting there. And I felt this massive influx of love as soon as I accepted it, and it like poured into me. And I was like, man, I love Christmas. That's why I like say the Grinch, because that's kind of what happened. Like he was cynical because the same reasons. Like he was upset that it was like this materialistic thing and not this love thing. He would see Christmas happen and then he was getting all the garbage and realizing that it wasn't, people didn't love people and they only loved things temporarily, and it broke his heart. And so that's, you know, anyway, people know the story of the Grinch, but that was me like through and through. And so there's my heart, and it grew 10 times its size, and I was so full and I needed a place to put it. I was like, how do I get some of this like out of my heart? And this is when my career was just starting out. And I remember just saying like, I want to call you and say Merry Christmas. Like I just needed a place to put it. And, you know, maybe the first year I had 50 people, 50 fans that were like, I would love a Christmas call. And so there I was in Germany, and I called all those fans. And for me, like I didn't have like the notoriety that I do now. So it wasn't like, to me, I was like, I'm just calling people on the internet. But to those people, even though I hadn't hit like that level of success yet, to a lot of them, I was there. I was this unattainable like act, you know, like most people are. There's a wall between us. And so for that, it was pretty life-changing. And so I loved how that felt, and I kept doing it. And it's, to my surprise, I mean, like, yeah, everything's gotten way bigger, but those calls have become so special, man. Like this year, I called so many people. It took me like a whole week to just call everybody. And man, there's some people that were bawling their eyes out and freaking out when I called, like crying like crazy. There were some people yelling and screaming. There was like, I got introduced to people's families, and
that's epic.
The greatest thing was hearing like all these stories of like what my music meant to them. Because there's this beautiful thing that happens when you call people from this place, a lot of people feel compelled to tell you why they follow you. And you don't always hear that as the artist because it can get lost in the mix. It can get lost in a Facebook post. You're going to miss it on an Instagram post, especially as things get bigger and bigger. But this was like straight from mouth to ear. You've changed our lives. Your music means this. Your music is part of my favorite memory. Your music was there when I married my partner. Your music was there when I gave birth. Your music was there when we lost a family member that we cared about. And it's like every call was like, wow. And yeah, and so now I just have this promise to myself that like I don't care how big this gets, I'll always do something like this to the best that I can during Christmas. And next year I have no clue how to do it because it's obviously going to be bigger. And this year was a lot, but there's always a solution. Like you just got to find it. And so that's where I'm at.
Do you like allocate, like you've got 5 minutes, or do you just let it run its course?
No, everyone's different. You know, like you definitely need to let people talk and say what they have to say, you know, and it's challenging because like at the end of the day, there have to be some, like at some points I do have to like get off, but you know, some calls this year were like 20 minutes long. Some calls were 30 seconds long. It really depended on what the person had to say, you know?
Do you think as it gets bigger, you'll do like a lottery system, or is that something like?
No, I think what I might do next year is like, you know, so I remember again being like when I was homeless, and when I say homeless, I don't want to take away from like, I've always had this like imposter syndrome when I say the word, because it wasn't like I was living under, you know, crawl spaces or on park benches as a kid. It wasn't like that. It wasn't, you know, what I think a lot of people associate with homelessness. It was, in my opinion, the truest definition of homelessness is just no home. And I was like having to find places to stay, people's couches, and, you know, just a lot of restlessness. And then, yeah, there was some moments where you don't find a place to stay, but there were a lot of places. Most times I did. It's a lot harder to be homeless as an adult than it is as a kid, I think. So, but to say that, there was a place in Cornwall called the Agape, which was a food bank. And I used to be able to go and get food from them so I could eat. And I remember that you walk in and you write your name down and you get to walk into this kind of like not a grocery store. It was like just like a giant pantry. And I got to pick like bread and maybe some milk, or I always remember I got this like Hungarian salami. I've never forgotten it. And you make some weird stuff when you don't know how to make food and you're a kid. So I would have this like salami I'd put in like a microwave, and I would put mustard on it and bread and be like, yeah, I nailed it. So I thought a lot about it, like how to keep doing this. And I wonder if it's like getting people to donate, you know, like if I put up a donate button and you donate $10 and that buys into it, because that, you know, that might not weed out, but it might change the dynamic, might change the amount of people that are wanting
definitely
that call, and it might bring a different type of person. But I don't know the full makeup. I mean, I even did a Christmas Zoom call to like 100 people. So
yeah, I had a guy on the show yesterday, Angus, and he said like people rise to the level of their investment. So even if you put, you know, $10 on it, for example, people are going to be more intentional with what it is like coming on. So maybe even something like that could be good, and then it goes to a charity of choice or something like that. Well,
I think so. Yeah, there's a way to do it. You know what I mean? Because I never want to be in a position where I sell it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to. That's not the thing that I want to do. So, you know, for me, I always, you know, I've had this agreement with myself the whole time. Like it just never mattered how big I got. I just always
start your own NFTs.
All right, we're going in the Forrest Blakk NFT space. Let's do
it. No, let's not. I don't know anything about it. But
well, that means there's opportunity. Let's go learn it.
Your episode last year was on January 18, so I think we would have recorded it probably a very similar time last year. And do you want me to read you the show notes just so we can see where you were last year?
Let's read the show notes, see where we were.
Forrest was saying before we got on, which is sort of, we didn't prep anything. I just wanted to have a yarn to you because for me, I always take away so much from our conversations. And I think every time we chat, I'm like, we should have podcast. I think I say this every podcast as well. It's like, we should be recording this because it's quality. And I think this is going to be the exact same. But this is the show notes from episode 271. And it was called Heartache and Growing into the Man I Want to Be with Forrest Blakk. Oh, that's beautiful.
Sounds classic.
So I'll skip all the nice stuff I said about you because I'll say that later. But we just spoke about your recent heartache, not giving up on your dream, deciding who you wanted to be and putting in the work to get there, and what's currently happening with the latest song, If You Love Her. And should I quickly play a little snippet of that? I reckon I should, just to get us in the zone.
I don't know. You have to pick. I don't know what you're allowed to put on your podcast, so if they'll take it down because it's not. I don't know.
Allowed under like 15 seconds.
Nail it then.
Let's go. Here we go. I'll go to the chorus. Oh, jeez, you've got a beautiful voice.
Thanks, man.
And bad trash TV. There's still a few other things. She loves love notes and babies and likes giving gifts. Has a hard time.
We'll go over 15.
You sure?
Just skip it. But for everyone who hasn't listened to that, yeah, you held me accountable there. Thank you. It's just so catchy.
Well, podcast 392,000 was great, but we had to take it down, man.
Yeah, it had to go. Why? Talk to us about what's happened since that song.
Well, I mean, if it was January 18th, it means that the song had just started to gain some traction, but it was online. Since then, it went to radio around the world, basically. It popped off. It became a hit. I got the plaques on the wall now, so it went platinum in Canada and gold in the United States. It was a big deal, man. I'm a Canadian in the United States. That's I made it.
Huge.
I got a YouTube play button now for 100,000.
I saw that button.
There's been a lot of growth. I went from, I've had songs do well, but I mean, now I had 86 million streams this year or something like that. That's crazy.
I was looking at the photo before.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a lot of streams.
Dude, it's a lot. And that's just on one platform. I'm over 1/3 billion now worldwide. So I have over 200 million streams.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
How does that make you feel knowing that many people have listened to your music, like to something that started in your head?
That blows my mind. Ready for this, man? Like, this is the stuff that I don't know if like artists always think about. And I do the math here, but I'm not that good at math. That's why I did music. But what I always think about is that, like, so the song, to write it, to get it mixed, mastered, like fully done, produced, and out into the world, it probably took like top, maybe, I don't know. Let's just be very, very generous. A 7-day work week. Let's just to be super generous with it and all the time that was invested into it. And I think it's probably less than that. So 7 days to make a 3-minute and 40 second long song, to have that reach around the world over 200 million times, just that song. When you start to like add up how many hours of life has been invested, it far outweighs my 7-day work week. It's a ridiculous amount of time, man.
Well, I think it's even on your Instagram here, like how many hours it was just on Spotify, right? Which was a staggering number.
It was like hundreds of years of life.
Here we go. 4.4 million hours.
That's crazy.
Like, what does that even mean? How many zeros is that?
It's a lot.
Like, put that in seconds. That's a lot of zeros.
Yeah. It's a lot. I can't remember what I think I wrote it in the post. I think it's like 500 years. I think the total amount of time now invested into my music is like over 2,000 years of life. So it really smacks you in the face, like as an artist. You're like, damn, like people cared enough to listen to it that many times. And it's if you're ever looking for validation as an artist, like that's a lot of it. It far outweighs the records, or the rewards. It was like, damn, wow, that many people. And it's been a weird year to have a hit song, because I went from that and then, well, just to finish the question, like that happens. The song pops off. And then next thing you know, I'm doing a duet version with Meghan Trainor. So that happens. Then I get like all of this while COVID is happening. So it's happening from this room that I'm in right now, locked in here. And then next thing you know, I'm on an airplane flying to New York City for my first ever national television show. And I play Kelly and Ryan live. So Kelly Ripa and Ryan Seacrest. That broadcasts out to all of America, man, out of New York. So now I'm like in New York and it's just like, holy shit, this is really happening, you know? And then the song gets to radio and it starts climbing the charts in radio. And then next thing you know, I have like a top 30 song in the United States.
That is
top 20.
Massive.
It's crazy. Like that happened. And, you know, people may not realize, like Spotify alone, I think they say it's like 50,000 songs a day get uploaded to Spotify. So you're trying to cut through that noise, you know, and like how many people wish to be in my position, like around the world. Like I'm in Los Angeles, so I bet you I could throw a baseball, and wherever that baseball lands, I could bet you within like 100 feet, there's probably like 100 of me all trying to do the same thing. And it's so to think that's happening is crazy. And then, then I wrote a song with Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20, and now I have that song come out, and that song starts taking off. And now that song's just started. I think I broke into the top 30 in the United States today or yesterday.
Congratulations. Bro.
Thanks, man. It's crazy. It's really cool, you know, and like to continue from last year's conversation, like heartbreak to finding, you know, like I'm so in love with my girl, and like,
I see that, man.
Yeah. You know, just doing the thing, and, you know, but there's always a but with me, man. There's been some really beautiful and interesting revelations about, or realizations about what you expect to happen when things like this happen, and then the reality of what actually happens. And that.
What were you expecting? Like, talk us through that, because I was only talking about expectation versus reality yesterday.
Yeah, well, I think that you expect, you know, like I'm going to have a hit, like take it back to the beginning. Okay, like I'm going to I'm going to get a manager, then I'm going to make it. Okay, I'm going to sell out a concert, I'm going to make it. Okay, I'm going to get a record deal, that will mean that I made it. Okay, no, I need to put out an album, that'll mean I made it. No, I need a hit song, that'll mean I made it. No, I need a platinum record or a gold record, that means I made it. And I think the thing that you don't realize is that bar is absolutely unattainable. It's that classic picture of like a rabbit with a stick on his head with a carrot hanging from it, and the rabbit's chasing it. And it doesn't matter if the rabbit goes faster or further, it doesn't get closer to the carrot. And the rabbit doesn't have the sensibility or the frame of mind to see outside of itself objectively to go, oh, you're not going to reach it because there's like a stick on your head attached to a line that's holding the carrot. So I feel like that was a big part of productivity and like getting somewhere, making it, quote unquote, that I would reach the carrot, and I didn't. And so the expectation was that I would feel all these things. And the truth of it was that I did not feel anything. There were like small moments of gratification and like, wow, you know, like you did it. But that one, I mean, the next day it was like, all right, what do you write next? What's the next thing? And so I think much like, you know, last year with you and like trying to live in the moment, that's kind of where I'm at. Is I guess I always assumed that I would make it, and there would be this, like, I have this inherent longing for family and friends. I want it so badly to be showered in friendship and love and adoration. And I want like every family member to, it's like almost like this is such an unrealistic dream. And I know this, but it's honest. Like, it's almost like I feel like I want to get off a plane in my home city of Montreal, and everyone who I've ever walked this life with is there waiting for me, and there's confetti in the air, and fucking balloons flying all over the place, and people are like, yeah, like what you would see in a movie, the most fake montage of like, you did like a slow-mo. I want life to be in slow-mo. I want to walk off. I want to like, oh no, you could not. I want my girl to jump into my arms and like, I love you. You did this, babe. And because that's what you see and that's what you grow up with. But no one shows like what happens after that slow-mo montage in the movie. When even if that did happen, it just all stops once you get in the taxi.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
happens again.
Yeah, and so I think that like that I always hoped that I would have that, like in the realist part of it, like being a realist, it would be just that you're showered with that from around the world from your friends and stuff like that. And then what I realized is that you're not, and that's okay. But it paled in my expectation paled in comparison to the reality of it. And the sad part about expectation is it defeated me a bit. It really does, it's like, oh. But in that defeat, there's this like other beautiful thing of like, all right, well, the reality of it is, okay, that's not what it was ever going to be. So you have to kind of swallow that and your pride and get back on with tomorrow. And for me, I think the biggest thing it's just led to other questions, where what is it that I actually like? What's the balance? What's not the peak? Like the peak will happen, but like, I suppose I'm trying to say this. Like, I think that I've figured this out this year. People who've climbed like Mount Everest, they spend years training for it. And when they get there, they spend a lot of time like acclimatizing at the summit. And then they climb and climb and climb and climb. Some die, a lot die. And they endure. They go through the worst conditions. And when they get to the top, the air is so thin and they have so little oxygen left that needs to be kept to go back down the mountain that they get like 30 seconds to see the view. And then they start the treacherous descent. And I think that parallels life in a lot of ways. And I wonder if those people, when they tell the story of what it was like to climb Mount Everest, I wonder if they spend the brunt of the time talking about the view or the climb. And I think they'll talk about the climb. I actually don't know if they'll mention the view. And that says a lot, I think, about life. That get used to the climb. It's going to be shit. You're going to have great moments and terrible moments. And in fact, most of the great moments will come after you've done the climb itself. Once it's all done. When you're no longer feeling that like treacherous pain, when your toes and fingers are feeling like they're going to fall off, like when you forget what you actually went through, you get to really reflect in a positive way to be proud. But yeah, I don't think the view will ever be the thing. I stare at the view. There are plaques on my walls, and that's not the thing. It was the shit climb that was the best.
That's what creates the character and the memories, really. Like, I feel very fortunate that I learned that early. And obviously, at levels of success, all the peaks are different for everyone. But for me, my peak was footy. And when you walk back down and you realize I placed so much on that, I placed my whole being on achieving that. And literally it lasts for 30 seconds. Then I don't even identify with it. I don't even really think about that.
Yeah.
And the process that I'm going through right now, and I think it may be why there's that roadmap of university, house, kids, because it's almost guiding people to their next peak. But we don't focus on that process that you spoke about. We don't focus on the journey. Yeah, some days saving towards a house, for example, you're saving a heap of money. It's looking good. And then COVID happens and you've got to dip into your savings. And so we don't appreciate those journeys. For me and for you as well, Forrest, it's a little bit different. We've chosen a different way to do things, but I love every day of what I do. And I spoke about this yesterday with Angus. The podcast did 123,000 downloads last year, and it's just slowly going, but it's not even about the downloads. Like, I love the process of setting up the podcast studio wherever I am. Obviously at home, I don't have blue lights like you in the background, but I got a blue wall. But then also jumping on here, seeing what's been going on in your life or in people's lives, and knowing that then I get to share this with other people who are impacted by it. Like, that's what I now love.
Totally.
I don't know what the peak of it is. Like, to be honest, as long as I get to do this for as long as it's fulfilling, I'm stoked.
Yeah.
But there's also going to be other peaks that pop up, like, obviously being married, track and field, like all these other things that I'm climbing, but I'm like, the outcome doesn't matter anymore. Me winning a race doesn't carry the same weight that it once did. I'm excited about proving to myself, and really just wanting to maximize my time here. And that's what I'm excited about. And I think there's so many of us, just, if we can look outside the societal norm of the university job and stuff, because as you said earlier in the conversation, people aren't going to, if you speak to an older person when they're on their deathbed, they're not going to say, I'm so glad I spent 80 hours a week in the office.
Never. And we know this.
But we still do it. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it might be part of that expectation versus reality. I think it is part of the way we see things. And I think that we're creatures of habit. So habit is really comfortable for us. Like, discomfort is a really tough thing to face. It's a really complicated thing. That's why people won't leave bad relationships. Or not even that a relationship is bad. It's just not right for them. And then it turns bad because everyone's resenting each other. Or why people won't move to the city that they want to move in. Or why younger people won't travel the world. Instead, they'll go and lock themselves in cages and go and do that job. It's not to say that that's wrong. It's just some people feel like that's not right, but they continue to do the thing that's not right. If you feel it's right, then I don't think you'll get to the end feeling it's wrong. I think you might change or deviate from that plan as you get older because your perspective will change. Maybe you're the type of person that wants to work 90 hours a week, and then you decide, you have a kid and you go, man, I don't want to do that anymore. So you change it up. And that's great. I think that a lot of people just are afraid to deviate from the plan. And the other thing is the way we do things, it locks us in. Like, I'm not the first to say this, but it's like you get a great job or you get a great career. You spend all this money, at least in the States, you spend a lot of money to get this great career. And then you need a job to pay for the career choice that you went to school to set yourself up for. So then you need a job that represents that and pays an adequate amount of money for you to pay your debt off. And if you make more money, you get bigger things. So you buy a house or, a nicer car, and then you have to pay those things off. And the reality is that you've locked yourself into a really interesting position because you need that job. You have to have that job to pay for the things that you're buying. Mm-hmm. And so people are buying houses that they have to pay off for the next 40 years and they have no other income and they don't know how to do that. And it's like, I'm not one to talk. I'm not here to tell people how to do their finances and whatnot. And I'm the worst person to listen to for that anyways. But, but I think the thing that I'm getting at for me, I risked never having those things to do what I'm doing. And I'm not unhappy about that. But I will tell you this, I've worked incredibly hard to get where I am. But I would say that I've never worked as hard as people who do something they hate for 8 to 12 hours a day, 365 days a year. Like, I've never felt that feeling. And I've had a freedom, but that freedom has come with a cost. I've not been able to do a lot of things that I wanted to do financially, but I've been able to do a lot of things in life freedom-wise. So I was able to pack up overnight and move to Europe. And then I was able to pack up overnight from Europe and move to Los Angeles. And I was able to stay in this career when there was no money coming in. And because I was nickel and diming and like going, okay, like, yeah, I can't have this thing. I won't buy those things. And, so it's a tough thing. Yeah. I suppose, like, getting back to the point of it all, I think that we just build these little boxes for us to live in and we don't know how to get out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing is, I think that there's an imbalance, and I'm facing that every day. Like I'm not superhuman, man. Like you know parts of my story. I went from being 260 pounds to then losing 100 pounds. And I got it. I got there. I got to the 6-pack. But again, there was no celebratory family or friends, and there was no balloons and confetti. And when I hit it, I really didn't know what to do with it, because the goal was a goal. And when I achieved the goal, there was no outcome other than the fact that I just hit the goal. Like, it didn't change my life. I'd already been doing all the things. So my life had changed long before the climax of that moment. Like, my body was already sore from being in the gym all the time. And I already knew what I was tracking with my calories. But I was so imbalanced when I was doing it, because I was robbing myself of a ton of moments as well. So I reached this goal, and then I realized that I'd missed like certain family dinners. I actually missed the things that I was trying to get by getting to the end, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's just trying to find those moments of balance. And so like I've put on 40 pounds. And so it's like, COVID hit, and I'm like, shit, I don't really care. And I can't go to a gym, and I don't really want to go to a gym, frankly, at this point. Like, I'd rather have the dinner out with my girlfriend. But in all this, what I'm saying though, is that now there's another imbalance. And for me, much like you last year, like I'm constantly trying to find the balance. And I'm slowly realizing, in actuality, that every choice I make every day, it doesn't affect necessarily today. And it doesn't actually affect tomorrow. And it doesn't affect next week, really. But at some point, those choices lead to some sort of consequence, whether positive or negative. And I think the challenge is, whether you're successful or fit or anything that fits this world of like trying to get to a goal, is that there's a consistency, and within the consistency, you have to have the framework of balance. So like, if you're going to train 5 days a week, take a day off, take 2 days off. If you're going to track all your calories and whatnot, and like be super rigid for 5 days, and maybe literally have a meal, and maybe don't call it a cheat meal, just have a meal.
Have a meal.
Have a meal, and find the balance that affords you that luxury, and maybe create some space to live a little. Because I can tell you that's my biggest downfall. I forgot to live a lot.
I had a client, because he was asking the same thing last week about, he really wanted to find balance because he works a lot. And then I said, well, why don't you come back to me and tell me what this balance is that you're looking for? And after a week, so like a couple of days ago, he came back and was like, I've just realized, and this was his understanding of it. And I was like, this is awesome, because I'd never really thought about it either. But his understanding was, I'm not actually seeking balance. I'm just seeking being in control of all the decisions that I'm making. And it was more so, we're obviously all in control of most of the decisions that we're making. It's more so being intentional with the decisions that we're making. So if we're thinking, hey, I want to actually just go enjoy a meal, go enjoy a meal. Don't hold guilt or shame or resentment, or don't attach that to it. It is what it is. And yes, there could be a snowball effect. Like, if your goal is to be a lean bodybuilder, there's sacrifices that come with that. If you're like, for me personally, I just want to be fucking happy and have the experiences of life. That's where I'm currently at. It's been different, and it will be different again, which means I'm drinking more alcohol, and I'm not being upset that I'm, not training as hard as I have, or my sleep's not as good as it usually is, but I'm okay with that, because I know I'm choosing my decisions.
Right now you're okay with it. The consequence comes later. If it's not in balance or not in moderation, then you can find yourself a year down the road in a bad space.
Are you saying I'm getting a dad bod?
I love your dad bod.
Thanks, bro.
Wait, what I'm saying though is like, that's just it though. That's it. The balance is doing things, but being intentional. You're right. Your friend's right. Like, your client's right. The goal doesn't change. The goal line's the same. But it's not every play has to be the Hail Mary play. It's like, exactly. you can afford yourself to drink. If you're saying, hey, my sleep is becoming crap, and I'm drinking too much, and my body's changing, and you find that you're starting to get this degree of unhappiness,
change it.
And it's not easy. It's so easy to say it, but it's not easy. But I think for me, this goal is like, if you find that true balance, you don't have to necessarily find yourself at that position. That's kind of the mistake I've made over the course of the past few years. Go ahead.
You go. I'll let you.
No, yeah. Good for you, sir. Go.
Sorry to cut you off. I was going to ask about a post I read of yours where you were saying how you didn't enjoy being in front of the camera or in your own video clips. And then there was this second paragraph was about you putting weight on over the pandemic.
Yeah.
Talk to me about all of that. Like, why don't you? Well, obviously, you explained it in the post, but for those who haven't read the post,
no. Well, here's the deal. Like, I've turned down a lot of opportunities because the way I feel, and the crazy thing is, I felt the same when I had a six pack. Because you have what's called, visual and perceptual adaptation. That's why people can get really obese or heavy and not realize necessarily that they're at that weight. And the same way someone can get the complete other end and lose every ounce of body weight and not realize they can still think they're overweight. And it's a mind fuck, to be honest, man. And so I remember being at my peak fitness or peak physique rather, and feeling completely uncomfortable in my body. And when I started gaining a bit of weight, I felt the same. And then I'm heavier now, and I feel the same as I did when I was completely fit. Like it's this complete screw of the mind. But I have fought tooth and nail basically not to be in my own videos because I just don't feel comfortable. And it's like everybody, man. Like I had a bad motocross accident when I was a kid, and it shattered most of my cheekbones, and my nose got destroyed. I lost teeth and busted my jaw and fractured my skull and shattered my leg. Like it was terrible. Like should have died. It was like basically putting a glass in a bag and smashing the glass. That was my skull. And so I noticed things in my face. I noticed how my teeth they were messed up and how it's changed my mouth. And I noticed how when I smile, part of my face doesn't move because of the damage. And it's like, but when I think of those things, I forget to tell myself like, yo, you had 50 stitches to stitch your lips back together because they were split from your nose to your chin, and you lost your teeth and you fractured your whole face, man. You look okay, and like even with my girlfriend's stunning. Like we can walk down the street and trust me, no one sees me. They all see her. That woman thinks I'm the most handsome man in the world. And I've had to stop myself because she'll call me handsome and I'll kind of like downplay it and be dismissive of the compliment. I don't even know how to take the compliment. So I'm like trying to be conscious of this now to go, why am I trying to convince her I'm not? Why am I trying to convince myself I'm not? Why am I trying to convince fans that I'm not? Like if people think I'm handsome, great. If you don't, great. That's okay. Like all of it's okay. And I'm getting worried that imbalance that I have, like coming back to that word, that when I'm 50 years old, I'm going to be pretty upset because I'm probably going to look back right now and go, damn, dude, you looked great. Like you're awesome. Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like 4 years ago, I'm looking back at pictures going, oh my God, dude, like you did it. like, come on, let's just try that again. And so again, I think, you've been doing that journey a lot longer than me. I'm the music guy, but fitness is a massive component and health is a massive component. It's changed my life. And I'm just trying to sort out how to make that more balanced, where it's not like have to get up at 5 o'clock every morning. Like I don't want to be The Rock. Nothing about me wants to be The Rock. And I don't want to be Mark Wahlberg. Nothing about me wants to be Mark. I don't want to get up at 4:30 in the morning and do a Wim Hof ice bath and then have egg whites and sadness and then, 6 o'clock in the morning, read 14 books. And I have no desire to waste my life like that. Like, and to those people who want to, fantastic. I applaud you if that makes you happy. Because, that's not my happy place. But I dabbled in it for a while, and I tricked myself into thinking that that was the thing. And so, like, instead of like sleeping in with the missus and giving a little cuddle, it was like, now I got to get to the gym so I could be the one guy working at 4:30 in the morning. Like, well, I got that. Look at me. And then get on your Instagram being like, hey, to everybody, this is how you get fit. It's like, that's what I was perpetuating. And it drove me mental, man. Like now I just want to be the guy who's like, yeah, I go to the gym 3-4 times a week. I don't tell anybody about it. I work out. I feel good in my brain. I look good. I go and I eat out at the dinners when my friends ask me to go out. And I say no to some because I just don't want to eat out. And like I sometimes I stay in and do the cuddle with my missus, but I prioritize myself and my time every day at some point, make it important. Like that's what I want. I want the balance and the priority. And then I want the rest of my life to do the thing, because the problem I find is that when I become so imbalanced, it's like, oh, now you're too heavy. So now you have to be an extremist and you have to do all these hardcore things to get to here. And it's like that's never worked. It doesn't make for the best successes, man. It makes for really good extremism. It's like, yo, just like we're talking about earlier, like do something today. It's not going to pay off at all today. It's going to suck. You're not going to get any gratification. It's not like an Instagram post or a TikTok video. It's not going to do anything. No one's going to show up. No one's going to like you. No one's going to love you for it. Maybe your partners or the one person, and then that will fade too, because at next week, they're not going to be congratulating you. It's like, you just got to get up, do some uncomfortable shit. And what's going to happen is like 6 months down the road, you're going to walk in front of a mirror one day and go, I look different today for whatever reason. I just look different today. Or 6 months down the road, someone's going to go, hey, you're looking like you're healthier, which, great. Or not. I think the whole thing is like the same thing happens if you go the other way. Except the only problem is like people don't usually tell you like, hey, you really had a lot of drinks this week. Like most people don't tell you that. People are afraid to be confrontational. So it's balance just is like, no one's going to challenge you for having a drink the way no one's going to challenge you for going to the gym. But if you have to start making everyone else's life fit yours, maybe start taking a look at what you're doing, because it's probably an extreme.
That was beautiful.
That's my thought.
Really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
really
that's this year's rant.
I was going to say we could make that a TED talk.
Well, that's just the thing, like I was watching this thing. So there's a TV show, an old TV show. Tiff and I were having dinner last night, and we put on this like just trash TV, and it was a wife swap show. And I was like, oh, this looks interesting. I want to see what this thing's about. And there was an episode where there was this really large family who are from the Jersey Shore, and they're Italian, and they had like a pizza restaurant, and they overeat all the time. So everyone's really large. And the other family is this like super fit, the wife used to be 80 pounds heavier, and she lost all the weight. And so now her life is completely regimented to the point where she doesn't sit down to eat. So there's no family. There's no family time. There's nothing. So the wives swap and change houses, and they see what the houses are like. So the fit wife goes to the house with all the overweight people, and the overweight wife goes to the house with all the fit people. And one of the things that I really liked about it was that it revealed, one, how polarizingly different the lives were, but how much each person was missing, like what they were losing. It basically reveals this imbalance. So obviously this fitness fanatic was so rigid in her way of thinking that she was losing this quality time with her young children, and she was hustling. She had this American disease, this like hustle. It's like, why? Live. Hustle enough to live. Like reverse engineer your life, man. What do you want? And then do the work that you need to get to what you want. Stop just doing shit to be greedy, to have everything. Like, what do you want? Nobody knows that. Nobody answers that. I'm getting ranty now, but it's true. And so it's like this lady like goes to this house with all these obese people, and she's trying to implement all her change. And the beautiful thing was the overweight people were like, wow, we needed that reality check. Yeah, we're in a bad place. We're really overweight. And the overweight lady who goes to the fitness house goes, wow, you're really deprived of love, of like love nourishment. So one's deprived of food, nourishment, and the other's deprived of love. And that was that massive imbalance. And so it's like, so the end of that point is, anyone who listens to this, what the hell do you want? Do you want $1 million house? If you do, you know exactly what kind of job you need to get. You need a job that can buy you $1 million house. So if that's your only thing in life, go get that job. If you want $100,000 house and you want to travel and see the world, go get the job that does that. But my fear in life is that people don't do that. Like I can't work the way other people work. I can't sit in a cubicle. I've tried. I can't do these mundane jobs. Man, I worked in a cheese factory and it was the closest to like hell I've ever been. But to some people, that was the greatest job, and they got their retirement and they bought their houses and they did their thing. And like, if you want to work at McDonald's, great, man, crush it. I hope that you're happy. I hope that it provides you with what you're trying to do. If you want to raise a family of 5, great. I hope that you do that. But again, my fear is that people don't know the outcome, so they have no clue how to reverse engineer and then actually live a life that's fulfilling to get to that point. And it saddens me to see people get online and talk about how you need to hustle.
All day long.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a musician. How many people do I want to play for? Well, I want to play in front of a stadium. I want to play in front of 80,000 people. I would like to do like Wembley, like 80 to 90,000 people. So I need to have a career that reflects that. I got to write songs that fit that blueprint, and I got to bust my ass. I also want a life that's fulfilling with connection. I don't want a $5 million house. I don't need it. Don't need $1 million sports car. Don't. It's just not on my list. So I will sacrifice a lot of things that would have gotten those things and instead put them into other things that fuel what I actually really want. I want more connection with more people. How do I get there? So I'll sell all those other dreams of mine. They become non-dreams to fuel the dreams that I actually have. And that has given me a hell of a lot more purpose to strive for. Anyway, I'm talking too much now.
I love it. I think that's perfect, though. I really hope people listen to that and understand that when you think about what it is that you want, like you want connection. For me, I'm the exact same. And just to quickly, and I'll let you go because I know it's we've had you for a long time. For me as well, it's not about I don't want the sports car, I don't want the big house. There's 4 things that I really want to be present in my life at all points in time, and that's to be happy. The second is connection. I want good people around me who challenge me and are there for me when I need that. I want to have choice, and the choice for me means flexibility to do what I want and to take opportunities when I want, or to just stay at home when I want. But also within the choice, it's the money to do those things. If I want to get on a plane and travel over and see you play Wembley, that'd be awesome, right?
Must happen. Has to happen.
Yeah. And the final one is I want a sense of like purpose. And to me, it's not about a big thing, but it's just every day. Like I've got the opportunity to be a great husband. I've got the opportunity to be a great mate. I've got the opportunity to do what I love at the moment. And that means I'm the same as you. I can't sit in a fucking cubicle. I can't work for someone. And that may be costing me opportunities. It may be, of course, but I'm not happy in that way of life. And
yeah.
So for me, it's, I mightn't be doing this in 10 years' time. I'm completely okay with that. As long as I've got those 4 things being met, I feel like I'm going to be happy. Yeah. And I'll succeed in whatever I choose to do, because I think that a lot of it comes from those things being met for me.
I think you're right on it, man. Look, one day you're going to die. That's kind of the end. That's the way it's happening for all of us. It's like, what do you want to do between now and then?
Geez, we just jumped off a cliff then, didn't we? We went from like this inspirational chat to...
Well, no, I mean, that is inspirational. One day it's going to be over. Like, what do you want to do between then and now? And I think you're spot on, man. Like,
well, I've got one last question for you. And I ask you this question every time, and I'm actually really excited to go back and check to see whether your responses have changed, which I'm sure they probably have. What does it mean to be a man?
What does it mean to be a man?
Yes.
I think for me right now in this time in my life, what it means to be a man is kind of the bigger question of what it means not to be a man.
Ooh.
I think to find equality is to dismantle what it is to be a man, and to kind of see what it is to not be one. So then that way you can kind of take off the armor and walk a little bit more softly and gently through life. I think that the box of being a man is a very like condition-based experience. Suppose what I'm trying to say is like the more I free myself of the idea of what it meant to be a man, the more I see that I'm incredibly feminine in a lot of ways. I have so many feminine characteristics and qualities and attributes, and I love them so much about myself. And when I ran from those, and the more manly I felt, the more rigid and the more hardened I felt in life. And I felt like, I guess it comes all the way back down to that same word, imbalanced. I don't want to know exactly what it is to be a man. I want to know what it is to be a human. I want to know what it is to be equal to my counterparts. And I think that that's what it is for me. It's to find the balance, how to be a human rather than how to be a man. So that's my answer for that this year.
Love it, brother. And I, like I said, I'm looking forward. I'm going to do the Forest Blakk trilogy and promote that when we drop this one, because we've made the trilogy. I'm actually really excited to see the responses change. And also for us both, I know from the very first one to the second one, I listened to you speak and I was like, man, I sound like a dead set drop kick who doesn't open his mouth when he talks. And I still probably sound because of the COVID, because I'm nasally. But one thing that every time I listen to our conversations is how well you speak, your storytelling, and it inspires me to want to learn to speak better, to want to improve my storytelling. And I'm also excited to see how far we've both come since that very first podcast.
You're doing great. You're doing fantastic. The first one was good. But I was watching you watch the wheels fall off your own bus and trying to put them back on. So it was I'm so proud of you, man. Like to see how far you've come. Like it's awesome. But that's the whole point. Like, I mean, that's great. You should be doing this. Like that's what it is.
Appreciate it, brother. And let's wrap it up there, man. I really appreciate your time, and it's good to catch up again as always. And I'm excited to continue watching you grow and develop, but it's also awesome to hear your thoughts around expectation and reality with success, because I think there's, as you said, there's thousands of people who are striving towards what you want. And for me as well, one of the most humbling things, and we've spoken about this before, even with my wife and their band, and now even seeing it with you as you reach these global levels of success and you still make time for people who, I think is huge, because I think my idea of success and maybe how I treated it when I achieved it firstly was that you leave those people behind. Yeah, and I think it's so humbling to know that yourself, and even like I said with Amy, and that when they first signed with Scooter Braun, I was like, I'm done here. I'm going back to Toowoomba. But the fact that they remain so humble and still prioritize what's really important to them and don't allow fame, don't allow success to change who they are as individuals says a lot about your character. So I'm so grateful to see and be a part of your journey, and also know that who you are on here is who you are every step of your journey. Like you don't falter or change to be someone that you're not.
No, it works against me most times, but I think it's the right way to do it. I agree with the Shep, the family. That's probably why I'm so attached to them, and why I love them the way I do, is that I feel the same thing. Like I remember being on Hollywood Boulevard at Hard Rock with them, playing to nobody, and we wanted to be friends, and we've become friends around the world multiple times to the point where it's like I feel like I'm family, and I love that. And I have the same thing as you. Like I watched their success grow at their time, and I always loved how I was treated, and I think that's the way to be, because you're right. Like, man, at the end of the day, like, look, I've had this saying in my head, and it's like, you can have a golden toilet, but you're still sitting there taking a poop. Like you're
still like doing the dirty work.
Like, you just, like, what do you think you are? Like, you're still just a human being with a whole bunch of problems. And it's like, I think it's something to watch out. If your ego needs validation, like, what needs validating? My humanity needed validating. I wanted to feel valid as a human. I wanted to feel like I wasn't as disposable as I felt in my youth. But some people feel like they haven't been validated as artists or musicians, and they feel like they're fighting. And it's like, be careful. Like, if your elbows are always up and you're always kind of fighting your way through stuff, be careful, because when you win, you're gonna have a trail of bodies you knocked out a whole way there. So you have to be careful. It's kind of that classic, like when you watch a really good fight, the person who goes and extends their hand at the end of the fight to pick the other fighter up. Be that person. It's a good sport. You don't have to run around pissing people off and yelling about how cool you are and how everyone else sucked and you were meant for greatness. Like, it's just, but I mean, if that's your thing, that's your thing. You're going to be lonely, but yeah. But I love that. I think that's, yeah. But again, who am I to? I can't say anything really about other people's positions. I think this one's the better one, but I'm privy to it. I'm biased, so.
So everyone, head over if you want to listen to Forest music. I'm not going to play it again in case the podcast gets pulled down, but it's Forest, Forest, and Blakk spelled a little differently. It's Blakk. That's where you can find him, because you've got some new songs coming out, and you're probably going to, by the time this comes out next week, you'll be going.
I'm going to be twice as famous at that time.
Yeah, you're at 3.819699 monthly million listeners, whatever that is now, 3,819,000. That's mental.
It's crazy.
Every month.
It's crazy on one platform.
Here I am getting excited about 20,000, and no, I'm kidding. It's all contextual. I love it.
You should always be 20,000's a lot, man. That's amazing.
Thank you guys all for tuning in. And remember, like, share, subscribe. You guys help us grow. And Forrest, thank you so much for your time, brother.
Oh my God. Anytime. I'll see you next year. Same time, same place.
Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.